Welcome back to WD Magicast for the week of September 21st, 2024. Happy fall, autumn, everybody. Or if you're in the southern hemisphere, happy spring. This is episode 271. WD Magicast, the show about the mouse, the marvels, the galaxy, and beyond. I'm your host, Matthew Graken. And this week's show, Isaac and I sit down and leaf through Agatha All Along. The first two episodes have dropped, and we are going to be discussing this new limited series coming to Disney Plus from our friends at Marvel. Please join in on the conversation. Let us know what you think of this show and anything else, or if you have any suggestions, questions, topics, send them to our social medias, which can be found just about everywhere at WD Magicast on Twitter, X, Threads, Facebook, YouTube. Yes, make sure to also subscribe to that YouTube channel, TikTok, and all over the place. So check us out there. Also, make sure to check out our TeePublic shop, which has some really cool merchandise that you get yourself. You get something, and you get to help out the show while you're at it. And on that bombshell, on with the show. Agatha All Along is an interesting concept. It was a show that came from nothing, basically. The popularity of a character from another limited series prompted the executives to say, let's make a show based on this character and let's see what we can go with it. The synopsis being, the infamous Agatha Harkness finds herself down and out of powers after a suspicious goth teen helps break her free from a disastrous spell. Her interest is piqued when he begs her to take him on a legendary witch's road, a magical gauntlet of trials that, if survived, rewards a witch with what they are missing. Together, Agatha and the mysterious teen pulls together a desperate coven and sets off down the road. That is the synopsis according to Disney Plus. And speaking of trials and going down the road and getting what we want or what is handed to us, Isaac is here to help us pick apart and go through chapter by chapter and page by page this series. Isaac, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I wouldn't say it was chapter and page by page though, but we did get 45 minutes. 45,
like
60
that.
minutes.
Cliff note by cliff note.
Yep. Give or take.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah. I personally thought the episode seemed to go pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's I will admit when the show, I guess first of all, before that, the title, because I remember back, like this show went through like several different titles before they decided to settle on Agatha All Along. Do you feel that they really couldn't come up with an actual title, or do you think this was the title the entire time? This was just, and then like a couple of years ago, it was just a ruse of just kind of throwing out different titles on there?
I'll go one further. I don't think they knew what the show was for most of this time.
I you know what, I could believe that, especially with everything that was happening with MCU at the time and the whole shakeups between Feige and the different things. I could possibly see that happening.
Yeah. In the battle with Iger now coming back, because that all happened whenever this show was being concepted and workshopped. I think it actually even extends even more closer to the launch date than anyone wants to admit. that,
Hmm.
for the longest time, I don't think, even as they were filming it, they were still trying to figure out the angle of the show and how the show going to go. And are we doing like a mystery? Are we doing something dark and spooky? Are we doing a comedy? Like, what are we doing with this show? Because there is really no precedence. There's no like direction for this character.
Correct.
It's just a complete one-off of of um of a show. I mean, it's basically like, remember the old one-offs that they used to do with the movies, like during Phase 1 with Marvel. Like you'd have funny thing happen on the way to Thor's hammer, and okay, here's the
Mhm.
premise: Coulson comes up, pulls into a convenience store, and something happens. Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, but those were like cute one-offs too. That was, at least with those one-offs, they still kind of were tied within the actual story. Like
Right.
right now with Agatha All Along, I don't know exactly where this fits within the MCU in terms of it. Like you said, is it just simply? You're right. Maybe it is just simply just a straight up one-off though. But I feel like again, I don't know, is this where what people want right now in terms of the fan base? I don't know what's the point of this show and why it exists at the moment, other than maybe the fact again that there was a time where Kevin Feige could do no wrong, and I feel like he had a bunch of executives where they were just kind of throwing anything out there, and it seemed to be the Midas touch. Like anything that was out there was pretty good. Again, now a lot of the Disney Plus shows that came out around that time were very good. Maybe the quality has dipped a little bit, but the shows were still were entertaining until we started to head into the next phase, and then it just kind of was up and down. The quality bounced around. The writing might not have been strong in certain shows. Some were good, others kind of like, you know, kind of tanked. So now with kind of all the panic that was happening in Disney because the MCU wasn't doing so well with a lot of their movies, um, for them to kind of still stick with this project when trying to, I would say, try to correct the ship, I think it was very interesting in my part.
Yeah, it's like almost like they got themselves into this
Yeah.
and they just couldn't get themselves out for some reason.
Hmm.
Um, so they, like, whenever WandaVision came out, and that this is what it's going off of, is that okay? You had this, excuse me, you have this actress, um, you have Catherine Hahn that you absolutely, you loved working with, and people
Hmm.
responded to her character.
Yeah.
Okay, let's, in the regular TV run of television, if you
Yeah.
had a character that did really good, you would take that character and you would eventually spin off something. I mean, look at Gomer Pyle, USMC, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Mork and Mindy, you would have stuff like that. It's in that, so that wasn't very uncommon. I
Yes.
mean, geez, the amount of spinoffs that MASH had, Golden Girls.
Hmm.
Um, so you did that, and then all this shakeup is happening, but you still felt obligated to make this for some reason. Um,
Hmm.
my thoughts on it being tied into the MCU, and see what you think of this, is that it's not. It's obviously stepping off from where we left off on WandaVision. Actually,
Hmm.
it's even further than that. It's stepping off where we left off from Doctor Strange, Multiverse of
Yeah.
Madness. So you got that offshoot, but I don't think it goes further than that. I think
Hmm.
it's very similar in the idea of Werewolf by Night.
Yes. Yes. That's kind of where I'm leaning at the moment, about that whole situation. Yeah.
That's
Um.
kind of my feeling. It's like, oh, we're making a Halloween special taking place in the MCU.
Mhm.
Before we did the Werewolf by Night, that was very successful. Um, so here's another one for you. We're going to go on the witch's direction. We have a witch and a character that we know has tested well,
Mm-hmm.
and let's kind of run with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they're going with it. I don't think it fits into the bigger picture whatsoever. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but
Yeah. No.
that's my gut feeling.
No. And I think that's probably you're probably right. I don't think this is simply just a one-off series, just for a character. I don't think this character will fit into anything. Again, like you said, just kind of bringing back just bringing back Kathleen Hahn to reprise the Agatha role. I think where people were trying to bank on it, but I also was like a little confused. I feel like, again, going back to where they feel like, hey, we could take any side character and try to turn it into a television show. I think wasn't the real best look. But
No.
in terms of this series, again, first of the first two episodes, that being said, I was kind of I was a little bored. I'm not gonna lie by both episodes. When I was watching it, I was little. I'll admit I was a little bit confused because as how the episode starts off, it starts off basically almost like a true detective with her
Yeah.
character, just kind of discovering uh, a murder scene. And I also do appreciate when I realized that this was made for a gaff was when they showed the opening credit scenes for the True Detective
Uh-huh.
scene, which I was reading the characters off and the people that were in it. I thought that was kind of that. Then it kind of it shot to me that this is for satire. This shouldn't be taken seriously. This was made for laughs. So I thought that was kind of but even then, I was still a little still confused exactly because, like, again, Catherine Hahn, like, am I supposed to laugh at a couple of these scenes because I feel like I think Catherine Hahn is overdoing it.
Well,
I'm
right. She
watching
was
the
hamming it up
episode.
so much. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, she was
this is
very
really
hamming
over
it
the
up.
top, but
Yeah, like over
obviously, I mean,
dramatic but goofy.
that's what she was going with.
Uh,
Um, but going into the series, you don't know that. But
yes.
like you said, there's subtle things. If you pay attention, you figure it out quickly.
Hmm.
Between, like you said, the opening sequence, when she addresses the other detective, she addresses him as neighbor.
Yeah.
Um, and just like subtle little things that she mentions about obviously the body that she finds is of Wanda,
Hmm. Yes.
Wanda Maximoff.
Yeah.
And so like there's subtle things that they put in there that make you kind of realize this isn't exactly what it seems, especially as you get further along into things and the federal agent shows up and do you remember why you hate me, and she just kind of appears. And if you remember back, a lot of the characters are the same actors from WandaVision.
Yeah, yes, I do remember a couple of the characters that make a return back. For one of it, it was very noticeable in that. I remember the actress that played in that '70s show also came back. She's delightful. I totally forgot her name. I wish and I apologize that I forgot her name, but she was still delightful. And I think even one of the two came back, like the quote unquote chief and the librarian also kind of made a guest appearance back. I think they were from the original one.
The chief is from WandaVision.
Well, under
Um,
Vision, and I think the woman too.
I
Um,
think
that being
so.
yes,
I think so. And even the name was a play on things as well.
yes,
Misty something.
uh-huh.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, uh-huh, yeah. But that being said, Deborah Joy Rump, who plays Miss Hart, yes, such a delightful actress. So the fact that she came back to this is quite wonderful for that, though. But I think over in terms of the tone, I it it, it was a little, you know, I it was a bit slow. I will admit it was a bit of a slow, a little bit of a slow build into revealing that it was more of a comedy, like a satire comedy than most. And yeah, again, it was just like, where are we going with this? How are we going to get to the plot? Again, it was 2 episodes, so I think, to be fair, you kind of would have to put them together. By
Yes.
themselves, it was like both episodes felt shallow, but together it felt okay. And even up to that point, because um, at the end of the day, do I really care about Agatha getting her powers back? Where again? What's the point of this? Again, now that we know that in the world that Maximoff is truly gone in the MCU, or we'll put that in quotations for the people who say we don't know. They could sit down and bring her back,
They can always
but
bring her back, but supposedly they've confirmed that the character is
is dead. It's gone. It's dead.
yes.
Is deceased. So and I feel like that was kind of really the foil for her, for Wanda. Arga, like Maximoff was top witch, and now that she's gone, I mean, I don't really know what's her purpose other than getting her powers back. To me, it feels like they're gonna pull this idea that it's not about the powers, it's about having family and friends and comfort, as you could see in episode 2, as she begins to build her coven
Hmm.
with a bunch of friends played by Patty LaPone, Lilia and Alan Lynn, that joins in it, and Sashir Zamata as being that huge coven, along with Deborah Jo Rump as Miss Hart, as they start to go into it, and a perscrupulous teenage kid played by Joe Locke, that has been, again, a secret admirer of Agatha and hopes of going down the road with him and experience it himself. You know.
Well, see, and here's my theory that it's not about Agatha. It's about
Okay.
him. He's the character that you're supposed to be following.
I mean, that is very true. I mean, that's very possible. Like, Joe Locke may have, and they haven't really mentioned his name, right? Have they mentioned his
No,
name yet?
not only do
Okay.
they not mention his name, they go as far as in the press release that he is labeled as teen with a capital T.
Yes, I do see that. So I guess the argument is that he could be one of Maximoff's sons, and I'm guessing which is the one with the magic powers. I'm assuming.
Mm.
Um,
That's an I didn't even think about that one. That could be an
that's
interesting angle.
where I'm thinking. Oh God, I am so terrible today. With names, names are not popping up like they
I've been having
once
that problem recently
did.
as well.
So, but I believe that that's kind of maybe the hint that we're getting, in terms that he could Wiccan. Yes, because he kind of has the Wiccan look to him, if you've
True.
noticed, in terms of the hairstyle and stuff like
Yep,
that.
yep.
So so that could be it, why he went so far ways to kind of reach to him. And we're still playing with MCU. We're still playing
I was gonna
with
say
some of the
timeline wise, that doesn't add up.
it probably does it, but we're also kind of also playing with the MCU in terms of multiverses too. So maybe somehow the kid maybe figured a way into WandaVision, and they're playing around with a lot of things right now, and
Yeah,
seeing what sticks. And also, they probably also want to speed up the timeline too, to get these kids up anyway, so they can probably form their Young Avengers with Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel and stuff like that. So there is a so that's probably the possibility of why they're trying to move these characters up.
you
Again,
have an
it
angle
feel
there. Yep, yep, yep.
that again, it could feel rushed a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I think that's kind of where they're going on with that at the moment. So.
Did you like the fact that they brought us back to Westview and that whole point and use that as a true jumping off area?
You know what?
Or did it just not make a difference to you?
It didn't make a difference to me because I was still like kind of understand why this show still it's even while watching it. So I mean, with Westview, bringing it back to Westview, I don't know if it made much of it. I know there were some, again, was the actors, some of the actors, and even the house disappearing afterwards were some interesting callbacks. But then again, we haven't I haven't seen WandaVision in such a long time. It's like okay, whatever. I mean, I guess. But again, like I don't know what's the purpose of all of this right now in terms of a 2-episode set. And again, do I really care about Agatha and this journey in getting her powers back? I don't know, like, what's the main evil. Again, played by Aubrey Plaza, who is gorgeous, by the way, being kind of the antagonist to Miss Heartless at the moment. You know what?
Well, you have her, and then you have that mysterious, was it the witches of Salem?
Yes.
That just they showed up to track them down.
Also to come after Heartless. That is correct. Yes. So there's a bit of a play on that as well. So, but yeah, going through this show, it wasn't, in terms of, there were some okay giddy moments though, but right now it's the episode and how it's tuning in right now. Again, I'm going to commit to it. How many episodes are we getting of this? Is it a 5-episode stint? I believe, or are they still sticking with like the 8 episodes?
You know what? In the press release here, they don't mention it.
Really?
I'm
guessing it would
like
be
9.
Oh, we are getting like 9.
Yes.
Really? Because those episodes were about an hour. I thought they were like, hey, you were going to get 5 episodes an hour, but when it came to 9 episodes, it would be 30 minutes unless they pulled off from that.
These were in the 40s.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of, well, a bit, about an hourish range, I would say.
Yeah.
I guess unless you're not counting end credits, then you're probably right. It's probably more within the 30 range.
Yeah. It doesn't say officially on Disney Plus's website. They may have said that otherwise. IMDb has it listed for 9 episodes. Let's see if I can bring up Disney Plus quickly here. That's not Disney Plus. But yeah, it's, other than it says it launches on the 18th. Agatha All Along, Jack Schaefer, Rachel Goldberg, and Ganja Monteiro, I'm sure I'm butchering that, are directing it. Yeah, it does not say, give you a full amount of full episodes here.
Yeah.
So,
well, if they're like 40 minutes long, maybe they are. I would say maybe there are maybe 9 episodes.
Yeah, 41 and 43 minutes respectively.
Yeah,
are
and
the first 2 episodes.
Good and long enough to get into the Halloween season, pretty much. I think and ended off in Halloween. I'm guessing. Reason why the positioning.
It's looks like, because it's a was a Wednesday release, and it ends October 31st. Strangely enough.
Yep. That's it. So that makes
episodes.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. That totally makes that. Well, that should tell you the episode length.
Yeah.
That should tell you that. So, but other than that, I went on a lot of rambling trying to figure out if I enjoyed the show or not. Matt, again, you sat down and watched both of these episodes as well. Exactly what were your thoughts going into it?
I was a little worried going into it, because I got some of Dave's text messages beforehand.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then plus also just knowing the trials that this show went through. in pre-production and during production and post that it's just like, okay, this is something that they really threw together that they have no clue what's going on, and it's just going to be complete shambles. And if people thought some of these other shows were bad,
Yeah.
is this going to set the bar even lower?
Hmm.
So I'm watching it. I tried watching it the first episode one time last Saturday night, and it was late. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, so I didn't get very far into it. And I thought it was quite bizarre. But then during the week, sat down with the fam and actually, sorry, not last Saturday night because it wasn't out last Saturday night. On Wednesday, whenever it dropped. Um, so we sat down with the family and we watched the first two episodes. And okay, beginning of it during that cop scene, it seemed a little strange, but I started, like you said, piecing things together. And it starts taking like a kind of a bizarre twist of things. And I like bizarre and strange. So to me, that was piquing my interest that what you see is not necessarily what you're getting, and you can't necessarily trust everything that's going on. Um, so I like those little twists and those little tweaks that you can't, what you see is not necessarily what actually is, and
Yes.
things, um, she's interrogating that boy. And it's like, well, no, we're looking at a painting, and no, we're looking at this, and then things are switching and reality's changing. And next thing you know, she's back at her house. And we're back in the actual Westview that we saw from WandaVision somehow.
Hmm.
There's all the characters, and then she's going through her house, and there's the boy in her closet, all bound and gagged. Like, oh, this actually did happen.
Yeah.
So the little weirdness of that I enjoyed. And then again, whenever you finally get around to the Coven section, they're doing that performance in the basement, channeling this road, and there's all of a sudden a doorway in the basement floor that they were able to go through.
Hmm.
And then with the witches attacking, just kind of very unsettling, very horror-esque, like Shining or Conjuring or one of those type of things, where all of a sudden they're just like popping out of places, and they're very unnatural in their movements and shrouded faces, so you can't see them, which makes it even more unsettling. Um, I thought that was really cool. I liked the way it was shot. I liked the way it was presented.
Hmm.
Story wise, again, it's still new, so I don't want to judge it fully on that because we haven't, to be fair, in 9 episodes we've gotten to, we haven't really been introduced to much of the story. We've given a slight direction to it. We're still developing the characters. We're still
Yeah.
developing a lot of these things. But like I said, I don't feel that it's Agatha's show, but she is not the character that you're going along with her, but you are following the story of the teen. And
Hmm.
that's how I'm thinking this is how it's
No,
presented.
and you're probably right. At the end, because again, I think that's what it's going to end up setting up at the end. Because again, the focus, it's the team that was so curious about finding the road that anything else, and Agatha is just kind of like the quote unquote mentor who's, either at one point either saves him or does something weird or gives him his powers so he can be witch, something weird like that.
Reveals
Um,
to be,
yeah, witch of some like of natural birth, and he
well,
had the
isn't there?
lineage.
Oh yeah, yeah. You said there was a Wiccan. I thought
Yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah.
think if there was another magical um MCU character.
I mean, there's probably a couple that I don't know off the bat though, but like I'll admit, in terms of like Marvel shows, I feel like Marvel shows have just kind of struggled in with the hook of
Yeah,
just trying to get people onto it right now because again, like I think they were was it very cute. Um, After maybe say shows like since um, WandaVision and Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier and even Loki, after since those three shows, I feel like the previous shows have just struggled in trying to give you a hook and the reason why you want to continue to watch those shows, man. Like
Well,
those shows came out strong out the gate, like, oh, this is what we are about it. Some,
certain ones have done well.
yeah,
WandaVision finished up well. It started off a little strange and finished up fairly well.
strong, yeah.
And they put, that's where they're pulling off of this. Hawkeye, I thought Hawkeye ran really well.
Hawkeye was
And
pretty decent, yeah.
they pulled Echo out of that, and that show never really
Bombed.
hit its mark.
Yeah, that show never hit it. She-Hulk was
She-Hulk is kind of mid-ground.
Yeah.
It wasn't awful. It wasn't great.
Moon Knight, I felt
Moon Knight I loved.
Moon Knight, oh yeah, I think Moon Knight had a pretty good showing. In terms of shows, I think it had a very good show. Yeah, I would say Moon Knight.
I went back and rewatched some of those episodes, and I'm still enjoying it.
I enjoyed Miss Marvel. I think Miss Marvel had an interesting premise.
Yes.
That you could get behind. I would say the finish wasn't as great, although it really was kind of a lead into the Marvels, which to hear they. I would say that I did not watch Secret Invasion, but I heard not great things about that show.
Secret Invasion again it was okay. It was interesting. It was a strong story, but I don't think they had a good direction on trying to tell it.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else here. Loki season 1 was really strong, really good.
No, totally.
Yeah. Loki season 2 was a big idea. And I think the unfortunate part for Loki season 2 was Jonathan Majors and the whole thing that was going on there. And I feel that was happening. I could be completely wrong on this. This is just my guess. Is that during the editing process, when all that started happening, they kind of panicked and had to start rethinking on how they were going to tell the narrative of that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was everything that was kind of going on was the changing of everything and stuff like that. Yeah, I would agree. Which again puts the show in a very interesting predicament. But in terms of the show right now, like I said, until we get into episodes 3 and how it kind of shapes everything right now, it's introduction in terms of the show. Again, it wants to present a lot of these horror, spooky moments, though. But I also do feel like it may be maybe falling back to some of the moments where it's maybe trying to be a little too cheesy.
And I think that's where we're struggling. You know, do we go hardcore horror?
Yeah.
Do we go light and comedic? Do we try and meld something in between that? What is the style of storytelling, or what style of television are we trying to present here?
Yeah, exactly. Understood.
And like I said, from my understanding, after in post-production, they were still trying to work that exactly how are we telling this story, which is the unfortunate part, that they were shying away so much from telling a darker story, which they now have kind of proven that they can do that. And I think they're taking steps in that direction to tell a darker and a little riskier story or presentation of a darker and riskier presentation. And it's like they keep on taking the little baby steps and not taking a full leap. Because you go back to you go back to Werewolf at Night, and they shot it with the black and white. and it's kind of very visceral and very, a little more gritty. It's not like super horror and dark, but it's very much in the vein of those classic monster movies,
Mm-hmm.
but in a Marvel perspective. And again,
Yeah.
a show that had nothing to do with anything.
No, and that's fine. Yeah.
And I thought that worked well.
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree. It's just like I don't know what tone they want to go through it. Like you said, it feels like they're trying to give out this weird hybrid. Again, it feels like they're trying to go back to the WandaVision style. Like almost like WandaVision really wasn't comedic in tone. It was more of a dramedy in terms of Wanda's grief, and in that
Mhm.
episodes were kind of the talks about her grief of losing vision. But I feel like it wants to piggyback off that, but then throw sprinkles of comedy, which was a little bit of old MCU, which depending on who people talk to, people kind of found that like, well, not everything needs to have a committed bit to it. So again,
And I feel that
I
they
don't know
they
where they
feel
want
that
to do
that's
that.
I think they I think certain peoples, and I'm not going to name names because I don't know exactly who's saying this,
Hmm.
from above is saying, well, this is the Marvel formula and you need to do it this way.
Hmm.
But the Marvel formula really isn't, to do kind of a lighthearted thing. The initial Marvel formula was, we are taking this genre of filmmaking or storytelling and putting our characters into that type of genre. And that's how the MCU started for the first 10 plus movies.
Yeah.
And then they kind of lost that direction.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, in terms of like, in terms of the show and stuff like that, yeah, just a bit of a slow pace and a bit of confusing blend, if the, say so myself at the moment in terms of the show.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, you go back to some of the original MCU, and how they were presented. It was, you know, Thor was, this style of movie. And then Iron Man was this style of movie. And Captain America was, um, World War II type of,
Hmm.
military type of movie. Then, especially whenever you got into like the second phase, like Winter Soldier, it was on FX yesterday. I just threw it on because I need something I just wanted to put something on to watch. And every time I sit down and watch it, just how good that movie is. And
Yes.
that is your spy thriller, type of movie, and it hits
Yeah.
so well. And it again, but it's not just because it's a Marvel movie with Captain America and he's being super heroic. No, they dial back the superhero-ness, and it is, you know
Hmm.
more, like it's a spy thriller, questioning who can you trust, who can you not trust. It's very real in its presentation and its feel. I mean, even though you have a guy with a robotic arm going and they're jumping off the sides of buildings and there's aircraft carriers coming out of a
No.
lake, um, but it's still presented as just very real feeling.
No, yeah, no,
And the and
they do
the
a great spy
jokes and
thriller,
undertones are, is very,
well,
um
at a minimum.
right.
But
They're
but
there, but it's
yeah.
not,
Hmm.
they're not putting in your face like, oh, here comes the joke.
Yes, yeah. No, no, they're not always trying to go after get a goofy gaff every time that they did it. But again, what I I fear with this show that it's going to struggle to find that identity. I think they
Yes.
want to lean with the comedy, but yeah, I'm you're again. I apologize for the lovely listeners who are fantastic, by the way, with podcast. Listen to us rambling about what we don't know what we're talking about. But other than that, it does feel like it feels like that's going to be that struggle right now, and that may be a turnoff again, I will commit to watching it, and it may get good, but that's what I'm guessing right now. And maybe the first 2 episodes just don't help out at the moment.
No, and I'm obviously I'm going to definitely keep watching it as well, and I look forward to doing our series wrap up in um, it'll be actually November one for we do that, which is weird to think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I personally would be fine if we cut out the comic aspect
Mm-hmm.
for the next several episodes, and maybe like at the midpoint we do something lighter, or something like episode 6 or 7 we do something on the lighter tone, which is a
Mm-hmm.
normal arc. So you do
Yeah.
your heavier stuff, you go to a light comic before you get to the real heavy finale, especially if your
Right.
finale is going to be
Yeah.
hitting you hard.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, agreed.
that
Agreed.
would be a decent pacing, but we shall see. Um, yeah, I mean, all in all right, out of 10, what would you give the first 2 episodes?
I, I,
I can see the pain on your face.
I mean, I, I I'll be honest, maybe a 4 at the moment. It really is just I'm just kind of struggling with the tone the show wants right off the 2 episodes. It's clear they want to try to go more of a comedic tone, but I feel like sometimes maybe the jokes are just not landing the way that they want. If Because I know that's the tone that they want,
Right.
but it's I feel like some of the moments in the comedic elements just don't land well or correctly, like for the
Some
chuckles and
of
stuff like
them,
that.
some of them just really don't need to be there. Um,
Exactly. And I know that's what they're going to, because based on the trailers, I think they're going to have, there were some really cool horror moments to it. But I feel like them just trying to, going back to certain parts of the MCU where they're trying to shove in a joke, trying to shove in a quip. I think it's really where the disconnect of this show is going to be for me at my end right now. So I feel like that's what kind of kills it for me at the moment.
like, yeah, I kind of hate to bring this part up, but the point of where she comes walking out of her house and she's stark naked.
Oh
Not that you
yes,
see anything. It
yeah, it's the quip. I understand that.
symbolic.
Yeah.
I get the symbolism of it, but
Hmm.
you weren't using it symbolically. You were using it as a gag.
Oh yes.
And I don't think as a gag it landed as well as it would have, with the symbolism of her peeling back everything and exposing herself to her true identity of the witch that she is, that she's freed herself from the bonds of the spell. And I get the whole symbolism end of that, of that bit, but you used it as a bit gag and not as a piece of storytelling to illustrate what has just transpired in front of us.
Yeah, and that's kind of where uh, the
They
show
will lose it.
may lose me at the
Yeah.
moment. But again, you got to give it a chance. So we'll see what
Oh,
happens.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to bring up or touch on?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Isaac, thank you for joining us. As always, pleasure hearing you and having you on.
No, thank you for having me back, man. Always a pleasure to be back on here.
It's always good to have you. Thank you again to Isaac for joining us and talking about Agatha All Along. Let us know your thoughts. Again, find us everywhere on social media, as I mentioned at the top of the show, at WD Magiccast, pretty much everywhere. I want to thank you for your time. I know how little time we all have these days, and the fact that you spent some of that time with me, with us over here at WD Magiccast means a lot to us. We truly, truly do appreciate you, each and every one of you. And please share out on your favorite social networks. Link to the show. Let other people know about WD Magiccast, or tell people. And please leave us a rating review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so that way they do their parts on promoting this show as well. And you can do that for free. Walt believed in a big Disney family, and so do I. Don't forget to subscribe to the show while you're at it. This way you always know when new episodes are posted. While you're at it, consider becoming a premium subscriber. Truly help the show out. You can do this over at the Spotify podcast website. The links to all of those and our social networks and to our wonderful TeePublic store are in the show notes. Because remember, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. Whatever you're facing out there, whatever troubles are weighing you down, whatever shadows are surrounding you and binding you to the darkness, don't give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give in on yourself. Let your light, let your internal light shine for the world to see, because it is brighter than all those shadows. It is stronger than all that darkness, and it will guide you to where you need to be. You are important, you are special, and you right now, without even knowing it, are touching other people's lives. Never give up, never give in on yourself. Be your own hero. And now I'd like to end the show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. Every child is born blessed with a vivid imagination, but just as a muscle grows flabby with disease, so the bright imagination of a child pales in later years if he ceases to exercise it. Again, that's Walt Disney. Thank you again for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.